Hello, welcome back to the Politics Hub. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll have found the terrible recent events in the Middle East almost beyond comprehension. Not just the horror and the human suffering, but also, frankly, the complex historical backdrop which is driving the political response to that. So we can speak now to someone who can help make some sense of the most senseless of tragedies, Mr Thrall, who has authored a number of books on the region, including his latest book, A Day in the Life of Abd Salama. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, where to start, frankly, is the first question, I guess. But what can you tell us about the backdrop, I guess, to this conflict? How, and the roots of the... It feels like it's a sudden conflict that's burst onto our scenes and to our consciousness, but this is obviously something that has been ongoing for many years and decades.
Yes. No matter what happens in the next days and weeks and months, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where there are an equal number of Palestinians and Jews, 7 million Israeli Jews, 7 million Palestinians, all living under Israeli control. And the vast majority of those Palestinians are living without basic civil rights. Now, that is a system, obviously, of deep injustice. And we are doomed to continue to see this horrible bloodshed unless we address that deep injustice and we turn our attention toward it when these eruptions of violence are over. That we don't just look when there is an eruption in Gaza. And the real aim of my book, A Day in the Life of Abd Salama, was to tell the story of Israeli Jews and Palestinians living under this system, their ordinary lives. And I do it through a very ordinary event, a bus crash. And I tell the story of Abd, whose son, a kindergartner, went on a school bus trip. And the school bus was struck by a giant lorry. The bus flipped over and caught fire. 6 children died, 1 teacher. Abd and other parents from the community rushed to the scene of the accident. And they have found that all the children have been taken away. And they've been taken to different hospitals depending on the color of ID of the Palestinian bystanders who rushed them off in their private cars. If they had a blue ID, they rushed to Jerusalem Hospital because they could enter Jerusalem. Abd himself had a green ID and couldn't even look for his son in a Jerusalem hospital.
A lot of people looking at this will be thinking, though, there's a need for a two-state solution here. There is a need for Jewish people to be able to live without fear of terrorism, of attack, of what we've seen in recent days, a terror group going door to door, murdering children, taking people as hostages. And obviously, of course, the Palestinians who, as having a bombardment and airstrikes and civilians who are living among terrorists as well. You acknowledge the suffering on both sides here. But what do you think can be done to try and improve what we've been seeing?
Well, I think that much of our discussion is focused on an abstraction, a two-state solution, or a one-state solution, or a confederation. And while we debate that abstraction, there is an ongoing reality that we should not accept. An ongoing reality that is leading to the kind of horrible bloodshed that we see right now. And underlying all of that is a horrible dehumanization, a brutalization, scars that both of these peoples are living with. And even in the context of this horrible bus accident, we see teachers who are rescuing children from a bus, and a Palestinian doctor comes on the scene and helps to pull kids off of this bus, and all she can think of is the Israeli bombing of the PLO headquarters in Tunis when she herself was pulling bodies from the rubble in 1985. We also find, Israelis are deeply traumatized. A settler paramedic who came on the scene of this accident, and he sees the burned out shell of a bus, and all he can think about are the suicide bombings that he had to attend to. There is a deep, deep pain that all of these people are living with, and we as media consumers, we only look at it when there's this eruption of violence, and what do we call for? We call for a restoration of calm. But that restoration of calm is a situation that none of us should accept. It's a situation of deep, deep injustice that we ought to do something about, especially if we care about not seeing further bloodshed.
It's interesting, actually, and I'm sure it's something that, many people watching this will reflect on as well. Do you think there is an issue where we have a kind of vague awareness of this conflict that goes on between Israel and Palestine and the devastation that happens, sadly, quite frequently, but then also we only really engage when something truly unbelievable happens, like what we've seen over the last few days?
1,000%. And I think that in that way, we help to facilitate the continuation, the perpetuation of this conflict. We constantly say that it's unsustainable. It's been going on for decades. The same doctor who I just mentioned, her son, a teenage boy, does the most natural thing in the world. He throws a stone at an occupying soldier, and at 1:30 in the morning, the soldiers come and take her son from her in the middle of the night. They won't tell her why or anything about his fate, and she spends more than a week just trying to find what prison he's sitting in. That's happening on a daily basis. This is the fear, the terror that every Palestinian family is living with, that they're helpless to protect their children. And so I think what we really need to attend to and to bring our attention to is the daily lives of Israelis and Palestinians, not just when we have a horrible flare-up in Gaza.
OK, well, thank you very much for being on the programme. Certainly, it's worth, I think, everyone reflecting on the long-term issues here and not just focusing on, something that happens today, even though, of course, it has huge ramifications and perhaps does hold up a bit of a mirror to what many people are feeling in the region. Thank you.
Thank you.